Hello everyone and welcome back to Foot Forecast, and in today's video I'm going to be going through my Premier League roundup for Game Week 26. This will not include Brentford Arsenal as the game hasn't been played yet. But I'm going to start off with actually a 0-0 draw between Forest and Wolves, and the reason why I'm starting off with a 0-0 draw is because Sean Dyche has been sacked at Nottingham Forest, the third manager sacked at Forest this season. And why has he been sacked? Well, Forest are in 17th place in the Premier League, and they are only 3 points clear of the relegation zone. I think the other major factor is because of how well West Ham are playing, and it looks like Forest are going to be in 18th place, so if the form of the two sides continues. As well as this, there are some reports saying that Sean Dyche lost the dressing room at Nottingham Forest. How credible are those? I'm not so sure, but that is often a reason why a manager is sacked. And I expected Sean Dyche to be sacked at the end of the season because I don't think that he's the sort of manager you want going forward, because I think Forest are more ambitious than sort of fighting relegation every year. But relegation right now is a real problem. So was the sacking of Sean Dyche correct? I'm honestly not sure, because I just feel like they need some sort of stability, but I don't know if Dyche is actually the right manager to keep Forest in this league. He's got a very good record at doing it with less quality, but that's why I think they could maybe go get another manager that's more likely to get more out of these players. And I honestly have no idea what sort of manager Forest are now going to look at, because I would have said a defensive style manager like Sean Dyche was probably the right approach for a club like Forest. I would have said a Nuno was the correct manager for Forest. I think that was proven, but he's obviously not an option anymore because he's at West Ham and because of the broken relation between Nuno and Marinakis. In terms of the managers that are high on the betting odds, we've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think style of football definitely suits a club like Forest. Where I'm concerned, he's got absolutely no experience in a relegation battle. Then we've got Vitor Pereira at Wolves. He did well with Wolves last season. This season was concerning though. I still don't know if he's a better option than a manager like Dyche. Another one's De Zerbi. I don't see De Zerbi going to Forest. I think he sees himself at a bigger club. Thomas Frank. He would probably do an alright job with a club like Forest, but I don't think he'll probably want a job right now. And I also think Forest will be put off the appointment of Thomas Frank, especially considering they just actually hired a former Spurs manager and Ange Postecoglou, and it didn't work at all. Another one is Enzo Maresca. I'm not sure if Maresca suits the style of football of the squad. As I said earlier, I think it's a counter-attacking squad. And the final one is Allardyce, and if you were going to appoint Allardyce, you might as well have just kept Dyche. So out of all those managers, I wouldn't be that convinced by any of them. I think the one I'd probably say is Ole, because I think his style of football at least suits Forest. But as I said, I am worried about his experience in terms of keeping a side up. If you're wondering why I didn't do a full video for this discussion, it's because I can't be bothered to talk about a sacking of another Forest manager. I will, however, probably do a video around the new manager coming in for Forest whenever that happens. In terms of the game, Forest just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and they had some big chances in this game. It was actually the most shots a side's ever had under Dyche in the Prem, and they had a 6-on-1 at one point, but Lorenzo Luca couldn't put the ball into the back of the net. This was a poor performance from Forest across the board. In terms of Wolves will be happy with that point. That's something to build on. They're obviously going down, but at least they are showing some fight. So then we've got the next game, which involved another manager sack, and that was between Spurs and Newcastle, and Frank was sacked. I'm only going to discuss this shortly because there's a full video where I discuss the sacking of Frank in depth. To give my quick thoughts, the sacking absolutely needed to happen, and the sacking needed to happen 2 months ago, not now. And the first half from Spurs in this game was absolutely terrible. Not enough attacking intent. The same story we've seen all season under Frank, and Newcastle just kept applying pressure and had lots of chances from set pieces. The goal did eventually come at the end of the first half after a good delivery into the box from Willock, which Malik Chow put in after he hit the rebound, and none of the Spurs players reacted to it. So poor from Spurs defensively in that second half. Second half, Spurs actually looked better. They actually showed some attacking intent and they looked threatening on the counter attack. I will never understand why they don't just start off like this, and this is what frustrates me. Why do Spurs have to go 1-0 down, 2-0 down to actually have a proper go in the second half? And that's my other major problem with Frank at Spurs. This was the same story we've seen over and over again, and Spurs eventually found that equaliser from a set piece through Archie Gray. Once again, Spurs relying on set pieces though, and this has been a problem all season for them, having no quality from open play. Newcastle, however, responded immediately. A great finish by Ramsey after a great ball from Gordon to play him in. It's poor defending from Spurs once again, no one getting close to Anthony Gordon. After this, Spurs offered nothing, creating very little chances. Dragerson and Basuma were so poor for Spurs. Archie Gray, however, played well for Spurs and scored. Newcastle were good across the board in this game, but the standout was Ramsey getting the winning goal, scoring his first goal for the club, and I thought he was very good in the game. In terms of the table, Spurs are 16th place, and they're only 5 points ahead of West Ham in 18th place. They're lucky that West Ham conceded in the last moments of the game. In terms of Newcastle are mid-table right now, 10th place. Top 4, top 5 looks unlikely, which will definitely put Hull under some pressure. And this is a good result, but most sides would expect to beat Thomas Frank's Spurs. So the next game I'm going to discuss is between Sunderland and Liverpool. And this was a crucial win for Liverpool in this game against Sunderland, who haven't lost at home so far this season. The opening 30 minutes of this game was very poor and boring to watch. The last 15 minutes, though, before halftime was the best period of the game for Liverpool, and they should have scored a couple of goals in that period of the game. That's how Liverpool need to start games, on the front foot. And Liverpool also had the most shots in the first half in away games so far this season, showing Liverpool did actually have a good half in this game, and they did show some attacking intent. I would have just liked to see this for the whole half. Liverpool weren't as good after half-time compared to that last 15 minutes before half-time, but they did find the winning goal in this period through Virgil van Dijk. Van Dijk as well as Konate were outstanding for Liverpool in this game. And Konate's been a lot better in the last 3 games for Liverpool. Liverpool were also excellent from set pieces in today's game, scoring and defending. This has been a real problem for Liverpool all season. They rank 19th for set pieces in terms of scoring and first for goals conceded. So it's great signs for Liverpool in that department, the fact that they actually did really well from set pieces in this game. As well as this, they performed against a side in Sunderland who are physical, direct and dangerous on the counter-attack. And sides like this have caused Liverpool problems all season. They've actually got the better of Liverpool in a lot of games so far. Liverpool also managed to hold on until the end, which is a massive positive because Liverpool have often conceded late in games. This was despite players like Hugo Ekitike looking absolutely knackered in the end of the game, which is still a concern for Liverpool, the fitness around some of the players. Another concern for Liverpool is that Endo injury. He's most likely now out for the season. Considering the lack of depth we have in the centre half and right back, that is a concern for Liverpool. Looking at Sunderland, they weren't bad in this game. They were defensively solid apart from the 15-minute period before halftime. Going forward, they could have been better and offered more on the counter, but I don't think they were terrible in this game. I think they are clearly struggling also without Granit Xhaka. In terms of where the two sides are on the table, Sunderland are in 11th place and they are 3 points behind Brentford in 7th, which you think is enough for Europe. Even if they don't finish in Europe, or even if they finish in 15th, 16th, it's still a very successful season for Sunderland. In terms of Liverpool, they're currently in 6th place and they're 3 points behind Manchester United, which brings me on to the next game between West Ham and Man United. And West Ham were really good in this game and they were unlucky not to win it. For most of the game, United created very little, and this is because I think Nuno got his tactics absolutely spot on. Playing 3 in midfield really worked in this game, because it made it hard for United to play through West Ham, and West Ham sat in and United just had to break them down, which they were unable to do for most of the game. And when teams set up like this against United, they can struggle to create chances despite having more of the ball. And it doesn't matter if the manager is Amram or Carrick, because these United players are way more effective on the counter-attack. And when West Ham is sitting in the sort of midfield 3, they're not allowing United to have chances on the counter-attack. And it was a player from that midfield 3 in Thomas Souček who scored the opening goal after a great ball in from Bowen. It was a very good goal from West Ham, but what impressed me about West Ham was the work rate and specifically Jarrod Bowen and the fight that those West Ham players showed in this game. That's something that's been lacking all season. And fair play to those West Ham fans because they responded with a great atmosphere after seeing that fight and that work rate that West Ham was showing in this game. And that was really important for West Ham in this game. And West Ham really should have made it 2-0 in this game. They had so many chances on the counter. Yoro did make some vital interventions for United to keep them in the game. And then Man United did actually manage to equalise right at the end through Benjamin Sesko. Devastation for West Ham. It was a great finish from Sesko into the back of the net. United did look better at the end of the game when they looked to get the ball out wide and deliver into the box from wider positions. But overall, it was a disappointing performance from United. Something else to note is this was probably Carrick's first test with this United squad up against a proper low block, a structured defence, and he really struggled in this game. I think what he could have done different is he could have asked United to take more shots from distance. They only had one shot outside the box, and that's been working really well for United recently. United individually were also below par in this game, specifically Ahmad and Shaw. I didn't think they had good games at all. In terms of the table, West Ham are still in the relegation zone, but I'm fancying them now to potentially get out of the relegation zone, something I didn't think I'd be saying. I thought they were gone for sure, but now they're only 3 points behind Forest, and Forest are in absolute turmoil, and there's no stability around Forest as a club. In terms of United, as I said, United are 4th place in the table, and they are 5 points behind Villa in 3rd, and they are a point clear of Chelsea in 5th. The next game I want to talk about was a mental game between Crystal Palace and Burnley, and the Palace just absolutely collapsed in this game in the first half after being 2-0 up. Strand Larsen scoring the 2 opening goals actually for Palace in this game on his home debut, one with a header and the other a volley. It was a very good volley into the back of the net, and it was 2 great passes into Strand Larsen from Lerma and Wharton, especially that Wharton ball. It was outstanding. But it was all downhill from here for Palace, conceding 3 goals in 7 minutes. An absolute disgrace. Incredible, really. And fair play also to Burnley for turning this around. Their heads could have easily dropped, especially considering how poor they've been recently. But they did manage to fight back, and the first goal from Mejbri is quality, and Burnley just managed to hold on and pick up the 3 points in this game. For Palace, this is a shocking result. And once you go 2-0 up in a game like this against Burnley, you should be able to easily hold on. Burnley are not a side that score a lot of goals or any good at breaking down sides, so it should have been a simple win. In terms of the table, Palace should be fine. They are currently 8 points clear of West Ham, but I am a bit worried about them after this defeat against Burnley. I was absolutely convinced they were going to win this game, especially after winning away at Brighton. In terms of Burnley have got no chance of staying up, I still think. They are 9 points away from Forest, and they've still got West Ham in front of them. So then we're on to the next game, which was between Manchester City and Fulham. And City won this game 3-0, very comfortable. And this shouldn't come as a surprise because Man City have got the longest ever winning streak in the Premier League over another side, winning their last 16 games against Fulham, which I think is an incredible stat because that means Guardiola's just had utter dominance over Fulham and Marco Silva since he's been in the Premier League with Fulham. All 3 goals came in the first half, and the first goal comes from a Fulham mistake from Anderson. The next 2 goals are just pure class on the counter-attack. I do question Marco Silva though, and how we set up Fulham. They were way too easy to cut through in that first half, allowing City too many chances on the break, and when you give quality sides like City chances on the break, they're going to expose you. Fulham did actually have some chances in this game, but they couldn't punish City. And you've got to take your chances against a side like Manchester City because they'll punish you at the other end as they did in this game. It would have probably just been consolation goals though, because you can't concede 3 goals in a Premier League game. I thought Mark Gahey was immense defensively for City in this game, and the reason why City kept the clean sheet. And the rest of the City players across the board were very good in today's game. I thought Nico Riley was very good in the midfield. Bernardo Silva was good as well. In terms of the table, City are only 3 points behind Arsenal, but Arsenal do have a game in hand. For the title, I am hoping Arsenal drop points in that game so the gap is closed on them. In terms of Fulham are quite well placed in mid-table. They are currently in 12th place. They've now had 3 losses in a row, which is concerning for Fulham. They'll be hoping not to go on a bad run of form. So then we're on to the next game, which was between Chelsea and Leeds. And Chelsea should have absolutely won this game. They should have put way more than 2 goals past Leeds United in this game. They absolutely dominated for majority of it, and it should have been a comfortable win. The first Chelsea goal is an excellent ball from Palmer to find Pedro, who finished off the chance well. Cole Palmer was picking up the ball, I thought, in this game in very good areas of the pitch. And I actually like the decision to play Palmer in the 10 and then Enzo Fernandez off the left, or sort of off a left wing position. And I actually think it worked quite well in this game. I was surprised by it, but it allowed Palmer to pick up some really good positions. Chelsea then won a penalty in the second half. It's a terrible decision by Biel. He just pushes João Pedro over, and I really can't understand why you would do this. It's such an obvious penalty, and this is now the 3rd time in 2 games that João Pedro has won a pen, and he had a penalty last week which was absolutely identical to this. I don't know why so many players are fouling João Pedro right now. It was actually a great ball initially from Sanchez to find João Pedro on the break, and Palmer put the penalty away comfortably. And then somehow Chelsea threw this away, and Leeds showed that fight that we've seen from them a lot recently. First of all, Chelsea gave away the penalty, a poor challenge by Moises Caicedo. And the second goal was so poor from Chelsea. No one dealing with that situation. And it's a disgrace, really, from Chelsea. It's so disappointing. And Leeds managed to make it 2-0. Chelsea then should have gone on and won the game, despite Leeds equalising. And I can't quite believe, out of all the players in the world, Cole Palmer has missed that chance right at the end, because it's such a simple chance. I know it bobbles a bit at the end, but you would have expected a player like Cole Palmer to score that 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10. In terms of the individual performances for Chelsea, they were very mixed in this game. Santos was excellent, Pedro was excellent, I thought Enzo Fernandez was very good off the left. I also thought Palmer was good, apart from missing that chance right at the end. The rest were very average though, and below par. In terms of the table, this is the first drop points for Liam Rosenior in the Premier League, and Chelsea are currently 5th place in the Premier League, which may well be enough for Champions League football right now. They are only 2 points ahead of Liverpool though, and they're 1 point behind Manchester United. Looking at Leeds, it's another valuable point for Leeds. Leeds are now 6 points ahead of West Ham. I'm confident Leeds will stay in the division. So then we've got the next game, which was between Aston Villa and Brighton. And this was a big win for Villa, considering they've lost their last 2 games at home in a row. And there was a lack of quality chances in the first half. Brighton offered barely anything. But Brighton offered a lot more actually after half-time in the second half, but they couldn't find the back of the net. They were threatening down that right-hand side through Matoma, but it was Villa who found the goal through a Tyrone Mings header in the last 5 minutes of a game. It's a really important win this for Aston Villa, but I think there are still some concerns for Villa around the lack of quality chances that they created. Watkins wasn't great up front for Villa in today's game, but Martinez was once again very good in goal. This is another concerning result for Brighton. This is another game where they failed to score, and another game where they failed to pick up a win. And I actually think Hurts may be under pressure at Brighton. I personally don't think he's a very good manager. I think he should be doing much better with this squad. And they're only 7 points away from the relegation zone. In terms of Villa, Villa are 6 points away from Arsenal. But Arsenal have a game in hand. I think the title is very unlikely, and I can't see them winning it, especially when they're not performing at their best right now. In terms of Champions League, they're 5 points clear of United. So then we've got the final game, which was between Everton and Bournemouth. And Everton had some early chances in this game, but they couldn't put the ball into the back of the net. Petrovic made a great save. Last 3 games, I actually think Petrovic has been pretty good in goal, especially that Wolves game and today's game. He was very solid. But it was Everton that went 1-0 up in this game. Despite this, after Ryan gave away a penalty, it was a clear penalty on Ndiaye, and Ndiaye converted it. Ryan, however, made up for this in the second half with a good finish after a great delivery into the box from Truefair. I'm saying this pretty much every roundup. He's a very good signing and he's going to go on to a bigger club than Bournemouth, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's their next big sale. Bournemouth then went bang bang in this game from a set piece through an Adley goal to give Bournemouth a 2-1 lead. After this, later in the game, Jake O'Brien was sent off rightfully. It was a clear red card. It was a dog zone challenge. Everton were unlucky to get nothing from this game against Bournemouth. I think they did create enough and they had some big chances in that first half. In terms of the table, Everton are now 8th place in the Premier League, and if they won that game, they could have gone into the top 7 and only a place behind Liverpool, and they would be in contention for European football. Brentford, however, did have a game in hand. But European football is definitely on for Everton. In terms of Bournemouth are now level on points with Everton, and they've made a remarkable turnaround in terms of their form. And I'll keep saying this about Bournemouth. When Bournemouth pick up a couple of positive results in a row, they usually go on a run of form for about 7 or 8 games, and then eventually it sort of stops, and then they go for a bad run of form. So I'm not surprised actually by the fact that Bournemouth are now doing well in the Premier League, because this has happened time after time. Let me know your thoughts on this Premier League roundup. What is your thoughts on the sacking of Sean Dyche and Thomas Frank? And let me know your thoughts on any other games that you watched. And if you enjoy the video, go subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video.